Hello and welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast. As always, I'm your host, Steve Smith, and I am so excited to be bringing to you the return of Keeper of the Greens. And that's right, we have a new partnership involved, got a new sponsor on board. This is now called Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens. We're venturing somewhere we haven't been to before in Australia. I know you're going to enjoy it. Come along with me for the ride. This is episode number 53. Keeper of the Greens is brought to you by our new partners, and I'm very excited to announce it, Colin Campbell Chemicals. Colin Campbell Chemicals is a 100% Australian-owned and operated company that is a leading supplier of crop protection products for the needs of the turf and broader horticultural industries right across Australia. Not only are Colin Campbell Chemicals Australian-owned and operated, in 2020 they celebrated 80 years of being in business since their inception by Colin Campbell Sr. back in 1940 in Alexandria, Sydney. Colin Campbell Chemicals has always had a focus on developing new technologies and bringing solutions to the turf industry. Their product range is a testament to their continued focus into their 82nd year of business as a wholly Australian-owned and operated company, with some of those products actually being produced right here in Australia. If you want to know more about how Colin Campbell Chemicals can help protect your turf, then you need to go to their website at campbellchemicals.com.au or talk to Nadeem directly, whose details are on their website under the Contact Us page. And don't forget to tell them that the Golfing Greenkeeper sent you. Ladies and gentlemen, I welcome you all once again to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast, and this is the new revamped version 2 of Keeper of the Green segment. I'm really excited to bring it to you. We're kicking things off. We travel all over the country of Australia, talking to all different superintendents and greenkeepers is the goal, and to give you an insight into some different parts of the country, golf courses, and the people that bring you your golf experience when you get out there and play golf. And I just want to start off by saying this. The first one, we haven't gone to the A.C.T before. We haven't gone into Canberra. So that's where I'm starting, the nation's capital. And I have on the line with me Superintendent Simon Snedden from Gold Creek Golf Club. I think it's Gold Creek Golf Club. Simon, welcome to the Golfing Greenkeeper podcast.
Thanks very much, mate. Thanks for having me on. And it actually falls under Gold Creek Country Club, so as we are privately owned facility. So yeah,
there you go, mate. I got it wrong to start off. Can I start again? No, that's all good. I wasn't sure because some places are country clubs, some are golf clubs, some are golf and country. It's so terribly confusing sometimes. But mate, welcome along. We're going to get into your story. Going to get into Gold Creek. I'm really excited to hear about what you've got there and what's going on, because there is some great stuff happening in the future. And mate, I'm glad you're on board. So I'm going to start with Steve's Super 7 questions. Quick fire, short answer, quick stuff. Are you ready to go?
Let's go.
Righto, mate. Okay. And I will say, if anyone's heard this before, there's some new ones in here. So we'll get this on. Sunrise or sunset?
Sunrise.
Here's one. You ready? I'm looking for this one. Dogs or no dogs allowed on the golf course?
So we're at a tricky one there. Like, I've got 2 boxes, and I get because we've got 300 kangaroos on course, I'd never let my boxes out here because I get torn to shreds. But again, being privately owned, we have a lot of, like, most holes here are surrounded by residents, and it is a bit of a pain when dogs are off leashes and they run under machines, etc., etc. So yeah, it's a tricky one here. Like, I love dogs, so yeah, it's a tricky one for me.
Well, okay, let's remove the rules of Gold Creek, because I would like to get this is a bit more of the personal answers, a little bit removed from what you do and where you work. So remove that, and it can be dogs on leash, whatever. Dogs or no dogs on a golf course. What do you like to see?
Yeah, me personally, I'd love to have my dogs out here personally, mate. So I'd say it's a tick of approval for me.
Okay, there you go. And we'll keep that separate from Gold Creek. So this isn't about that. This is just for a personal response. I like it. So, okay, stripes or no stripes on fairways?
Well, I'm a non-striper. I shade. I have striped fairways, but yeah, I shade my fairways, mate. I think it looks a little bit better on the old cooch.
Very good. Now, here's another newbie, number 4. After a golf shot is taken, do you prefer people to replace their divots or put sand down?
I'd prefer sand in the cooch, definitely, especially in growing season. A little bit different when we're dormant, though. Depends how big of a fillet you take too, I guess.
That's a fair point. That's a fair point, mate. All right, we'll move on. Number 5. Your favourite grass variety?
Coming to Canberra, I hadn't dealt with cooch, but I'd definitely say cooch. Not that my variety is probably the upper echelon of the old cooch varieties, but yeah, I love the old cooch.
Any particular specific type of cooch?
The boys out at Federal obviously got Snedden. That they obviously line planted back in the day at the same time. Gold Creek went with the transcontinental variety, so Snedden is definitely up there for sure.
Okay, very good. Number 6, favourite bunkers. Now, this is slightly changed from last time as well. And we're going to go, this is an all-Aussie pick, so it might even be a little bit more difficult for people. So I'm going to go with this. So your favourite bunkers, are they the ones at Kingston Heath, the bunkers, the earthy sand look at Royal Adelaide, or the pristine look at the Australian?
Yeah, I'd go with the pristine Australian look for myself.
The nice Augusta style, fresh, white, shiny in your face stuff. Very good. All right, mate. And number 7, if you could visit one golf course anywhere on the planet tomorrow, which one would it be?
I think it has to be Augusta for most blokes, I'd assume. That or St. Andrews for myself personally.
Mate, it always falls there. I've got to be honest that it really does, and it just tells everyone listening just where it sits. Certainly in the greenkeeping world as well, and we know that it's a place that everyone wants to try and get to at some point in their life. So, mate, that's Steve Super 7. Very good for the first time around. Interesting to hear your answers and compare those. It's going to be for those that we interview along the rest of this Keeper of the Green segment. So, thanks, mate. Thanks for joining in. Now, we're going to get into your story and a bit of Simon, who you are, where you've come from to get to Gold Creek as superintendent. So let's try and work backwards a little bit. Let's hear at the start of how you got into greenkeeping. Did you turn up as superintendent on Gold Creek, or was there a path where you began somewhere else and worked your way? Tell us where it all started.
Yeah, mate. So I'm a country boy. Grew up in a little country town in Young, New South Wales.
That's the cherry capital of Australia, is it, from memory?
That is the cherry capital of Australia, mate. Our rugby league team was known as the old cherry pickers. So,
very good.
I definitely did not think I would fall into the greenkeeping world growing up. I had a background in rugby league, and I actually got picked up pretty early on at 15, 16 by the Newcastle Knights. So rugby league was my go-to from an early age, and once I'd got up there, I actually started working at the stadium, and that's what got me intrigued into the greenkeeping world. So,
wow! So that I'll just jump in a little bit there because that's already a bloody hell of a story. At the age of 15, that's one of the in the National Rugby League, Australia's largest competition in terms of rugby league. This is a full-blown first-grade team in the Newcastle Knights. Rugby league's just inherited in the country. Really, a lot of kids, nearly all at some point, have played rugby league, haven't they? Really, and
back in our local sort of area was called Group 9, and it is a very strong breeding ground for rugby league, which is good. But yeah, I mean, I was very lucky, mate. They actually picked me up. I made New South Wales schoolboys at 15, and that's where I got picked up from there. So.
Wow.
I was very lucky, and was thankful for that experience for sure.
Impressive. Very impressive, mate. So that meant you made the move out of Young at a young age. Is that right?
Yeah, yep. So I finished my schooling in Young, finished year 12, and then went straight up as a 17-year-old to Newcastle, mate. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So you're on the football fields and you get a bit of a start through that. Is that right?
Yeah, yep. So that as I was, obviously I needed a job because I wasn't thrown into first grade or anything like that. So you still had to work as I was training, etc., and playing. So I actually wanted to do a building apprenticeship, and they couldn't find me one. So that's when I started at the stadium as a greenkeeping apprenticeship, and that's where it all kicked off.
Wow, and is that's their main ground up there? I know it as Marathon Stadium. I don't know what it's sponsored as now.
That's the Marathon. Then it went to, I think it was Energy Australia, and then I don't even know what it is called now. Actually,
yeah, there was McDonald Jones in there somewhere. I think, but as most people would probably know from the days in the early 2000s, probably Marathon Stadium. So, did you have much? Was that a full apprenticeship gig you had there? What was it for you as an employment term?
Yeah, that's what it kicked off as, mate. And then, like, as footy got a bit more serious, obviously my time on work was a little bit less and less. So I thought, I'd done like the 12-month thing, and I never went to tech up there or anything. And then tried to focus more on rugby league as a naive kid, not thinking about future endeavours. But so that's how it kickstarted for me. And I ended up just doing more of a labouring gig there because I never went to TAFE, and it was going to take up too much of my time. But I virtually laboured there, and that's what kickstarted me into greenkeeping.
Wow. Okay. So did you basically, and maybe this is going to intertwine a little bit with your football start, I suppose. Did you then have to push pause on greenkeeping to focus on rugby league, or how did you progress from there?
Yeah, so when I got a bit more serious with footy, obviously my time was short, and that's why I never could do tech or anything like that, mate. So I ended up spending 5-6 years at Newcastle, and then it was probably 5 years, and then unfortunately injuries got the better of me, and they never renewed my contract, and that's when I moved back home to Young. And fortunately enough, at the time that I moved back home, there was an apprenticeship come up at the golf course. So I finished off my time there under Dennis Grounds, and I grew up with Groundsy, and like we were family friends, and Dennis's brother actually had a stint at Parramatta. He was a good footy player as well. So I knew Dennis pretty well, and was fortunate enough, to go there. And at the time, we actually installed a full irrigation system from scratch. So I went there at a pretty good time, actually.
That's great experience under your belt. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dennis Grounds is currently the superintendent at Catalina Country Club, or Club Catalina. The names are just, I'm doing my head in already. It's the first one. Down at Bateman's Bay down the south coast of New South Wales, a great 27-hole facility. But that's a great lot of experience. Dennis is well respected. And like you mentioned, doing irrigation system, that's a lot of work in that, a lot of experience to gain as well, straight up at Young. And that's that. How long did you spend at Young, then finishing your time as becoming qualified, I take it? Is that what you did there?
Yeah, I got qualified whilst at Young, mate. Yeah, so I was there for probably 4 years, I reckon. And then Dennis obviously moved on from there to Catalina, and I definitely didn't want to stay at Young. So another close mate of mine is Scott Fogg, who he had just moved on from Gold Creek as the assistant, and he went out to his now role at Living Turf. And through him, he contacted me and just let me know that there was an assistant position over here at Gold Creek, and applied for that. And that's what got me over here, mate, from there.
Wow. Okay. So walked into the assistant's role at Gold Creek. That's a step up from, and Young's got a pretty good name for out there in the southwestern slopes and plains area as a golf course and 8-hole facility in a regional town. And then you come, what is effectively, into the big smoke again at Canberra. What was that transition like?
Oh, it was good, mate. I loved it. And again, I think I've been thankful for footy. I'm not a sort of a shy personality or anything. So I know I was through in the deep end, and I'm not afraid to call anyone for advice, or if I'm, everyone's only a phone call away. So I'm probably to the point where I annoy the shit out of people, to be honest.
Mate, and you know what? That, like you said, you're not a shy person, but there's not like you've got to swallow your pride to do it. These are all things, talking to peers, learning on the job. Even if you're in charge as a superintendent, you're always learning, aren't you? You're always talking to people and working out, they might have done something. How can I grab that idea and maybe work that, 50% of that concept into my locality and what we're doing here? Or, you're always picking things up, aren't you?
100%, mate. As I said, that's probably one big benefit I got from in the professional footy world, for sure. You weren't going to advance yourself any further if you didn't ask questions, because no one was there to help you, that's for sure. And same thing here, like I'm definitely not the smartest superintendent going around, and never will be, but everyone's only a phone call away for advice or any other prior experience they've had in doing a certain job. So that's one thing that I can definitely say. I put my hand up, and I will, as I said, I probably annoy people with the amount of times I call them.
Well,
but
mate,
that's how you learn. that's how I've been taught to learn anyhow. If you don't ask, you're not going to learn. So
you're not, and no one knows everything. So at the end 100%. Of the day, and a lot of greenkeeping that I found, it's anecdotal. it's a lot of the knowledge isn't always put into paper. You learn things at Tech, you learn a lot of the theory stuff, as they say, in books and that sort of thing. But when it comes down to what I found in the Blue Mountains and talking to past supers that, I learned from as well, you find often that it's what their knowledge is of 10 years or whatever their experience is in that area. And you go, that's unique to what is in this space. Like the Blue Mountains is different to Canberra, even though they're sort of cool climate areas. They're still unique enough that you need that experience in that local area, and you can get that from talking to people who've been there in and around it. And then you get the managerial, information and knowledge from others who have been superintendents. Doesn't matter where they are. So you're always picking people's brains. And I will say you're selling yourself a little bit short, mate, of saying you're never going to be the smartest, because using that skill and knowing in yourself that that's how you learn, that's a great thing. I think everyone, like I said, anyone who's smart knows that that's a great way to learn things. So, mate, I think that's smart, being able to do it. I'm going to tell you that right now.
And I think that's one of the benefits we have, like in the Canberra area, especially now with we're all sort of a younger group of supers now that, we've got Ryan Stalls out at Royal Canberra's just not long taken over there, and Pete Dunn out at Federal. We're all sort of around that same age group where we're all pretty young, really. So you've got to bounce ideas off each other and contact each other, and it's been good. And then again with Canberra, we've got the South Coast boys. Obviously got Dennis and all them sort of guys. And I can't thank them guys like around. They all know where they are, but yeah, I absolutely pepper them, mate. That's for sure.
Mate, it's all good things to help you do better and ultimately to help Gold Creek become better as well as time goes on. The longer you're there, the better you are, and all those things come from it. Mate, I'm curious a little bit. So you've come in as superintendent at Gold Creek. Did you have much time, as assistant, did you have much time being assistant before the step up?
No, it wasn't very long at all, actually. Again, I've been really lucky to get thrown in. I was 26 at the time, so Scott Harris was the superintendent when I come over here. It was probably only 6 months, mate, I reckon, and Scott left to take up a role at New Turf. I was thrown in 26 and only 6 months at the venue. So, but it was a sink or swim moment, and I'm thankful for our owners to give me that opportunity. And as I said, it's a sink or swim moment where you're sort of very nervous, obviously, on taking all that on board at 26. But again, I learned from it, and it was pretty tough. I won't lie. But again, I've learned from them tough times, and it's obviously got easier over time.
Was it, and this, I've said this plenty of times, and it's probably more pertinent to a person like yourself if I say it to you now, but it probably was a welcome to first grade moment.
Yeah, very much.
And you've had that.
To give you the idea of timing, I'm pretty sure it was nearly, I took on the supers role, and then within 1 week it was green renovation time. So I got thrown right in.
Wow, that's heavy. And you literally understand that you've gone from playing at the Knights, and that's welcome to first grade, to then walking into doing renovations at a place like Gold Creek, an established golf course in Australia's capital, at Gold Creek. That's a hell of a start. I want to ask you a little bit, knowing that you had a short term, you were a young guy before you took on the role of superintendent. I always love to hear, what did it feel like to be able to hold those reins? Like you talked about being nervous, it was the deep end. What was it like when you walked in and the buck stopped with you and you got the team looking at you going, where to, boss? What do we got to do? Let's, you're in effect directing play. What was that like for the first week?
Yeah, 100%. As I said, it was first week and we're straight into reno. So I had to get everything organised. Again, we had at the time, I think I had 3 second or first year apprentices and a qualified greenie. I think that was it. So staff numbers were limited. Yeah, it was daunting, mate. But again, as I said, I wasn't afraid to ring anyone. I'm so lucky that I've got such a good group of mates. I had Foggy there, who obviously had experience of Gold Creek. He was the assistant here for quite some time. I couldn't tell you how long, but he was here for maybe 5 to 8 years. Let's ballpark. So, yeah, right. And I've known Foggy since I was, 3, 4, 5 years old, through my old man actually coaching me in rep footy. So I had that relationship with Foggy, and he knows that I can't thank Foggy enough. I've relied on Foggy quite a bit, especially when I first started. He was only a phone call away, and he was more than happy to help. So people like that. Dennis was another one, obviously. So
And
again,
you
come
have
back to sorry, mate. Just quickly, come back to me if I was struggling or nervous or hesitant or 50-50 on a call. Like everyone's only a phone call away, and they've been a big help to me for sure.
that ring of support, the network of support is crucial in any leadership role, and I think it's great. It's interesting also to hear what your experience is and that connection in the country with sport. Like you talked about, you've known some of these guys before that role. You've known them through the industry as well, and family a little bit there too. And sport, as I mentioned at the beginning, sport is big in the west of New South Wales, and there's a lot of connectivity through people, and through rugby league as well is one big one. So, mate, it's very good to hear that you had that support network and getting into that role. It helped along the way. Mate, I like to ask also, what do you enjoy about being super? I was when I finally got the reins, and I can speak for me personally, I loved every minute of being a super. I love being in charge. I love having to sort of help dictate how the presentation was going to go. You're leading through projects. You're sort of putting your mark and stamp down on presentation of the golf course and what people are going to experience when they tee off on the first tee. What do you enjoy about being superintendent?
Yeah, you nearly took the words right out of your mouth, mate. Really, like I'm very much in the same boat. To have the opportunity to, as you said, the buck falls on you, and to ultimately get to keep improving the place. Like obviously, like all facilities, everything needs improving. You can't just keep it as it is, or no one wants to visit. So providing a facility that people like to come out, spend their money and time to come out and enjoy that experience, that gives me fulfillment. Another big one for me is seeing now my two apprentices. I currently have two apprentices in there last year, and I've obviously gone through a few apprentices before him, but to see them go on and see what they do with their careers and hopefully push them to do bigger and better things is a big one for me with my staff. As I spoke to you previously, mate, with Mark Unwin now, and I think all of our superintendents are in the same boat. To get staff is a massive struggle in our industry. So I've worked with Mark Unwin from Asthma, obviously on trying to get out to schools now and get our trade out there, and we've come up with a bit of a program to get into schools. I've contacted many schools in Canberra now and their career advisors, and I've been out to a couple to do our presentations, and it's been remarkably positive, actually. I've had a couple of kids come out already. So that's a big one for me, staffing moving forward in our industry. Obviously, if we get no staff coming through as apprentices, etc., then the trade could be on the way out, unfortunately. And the way it's going, in the next 10 years, we might only have superintendents and labourers, especially at like even here in Canberra myself, mate, I've got me, my assistant, two labourers, two apprentices. So staff is a critical point in our industry, I feel.
Mate, it's very it's right on everyone's lips, and it has been from before COVID. Certainly is now post COVID with restrictions on people coming to Australia to work and whether they want to stay here or go back to family. And there's all those sorts of decisions that people are making within their own family sort of units. But it makes me smile when you talk about, the conversion, I suppose, and seeing your apprentices grow and move on, and you want to see them, do the best that they can in the industry, and they may well become supers in time, which is, in effect, you've trained them, you've seen them grow as people, as professionals, and that's a great thing to know. And I did get a buzz. I understand what you mean about that. I think it's a great thing. And when we're talking before the podcasts the other day about this schools program that you've been dealing with. Now, I should mention to those that don't know, Mark Unwin is the CEO of the Australian Sports Turf Managers Association, and you've been obviously coming up with this work with him, and you're going to schools because it really is our industry in terms of labour is almost on the line. I agree with you 100%, mate. It's really an extremely difficult time and prospect to think that there are barely any young Aussies or young people in Australia living here that aren't thinking that greenkeeping is a job opportunity.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And that's what we've sort of covered in this PowerPoint and program that we're getting about. Obviously, the opportunities we all know as superintendents, the opportunities that exist within the trade, and you know, you can get overseas, you can get into so many other aspects. You know, you can get into architecture and course design, and so many different opportunities that the trade gives us. But again, at school careers days, etc., we're not really represented in them days. So Paddy Wilson will also help me out a lot with this as well. And I don't know if anyone knows Paddy Wilson, but he's a bit of a lunatic with his time. Paddy, he never stops. So, but yeah, the more we can get out of this, and if any other supers around the place are happy to do it in their own area, then feel free to contact me. And yeah, the more people we get on board with this that can get out to schools and get kids involved in the trade and want apprenticeships, etc., the better off we're going to be as a trade as a whole in the coming years, mate, for sure.
100%, mate, and that's the call out right there. So anyone listening, and I know that we have plenty of greenkeepers listening to this podcast that love tuning in and hearing people's stories within the industry, and there's plenty of golfers that love it as well. This is that call out to say, you know, get in touch with you, get in touch with Mark or the Australian Sports Turf Managers Association, and just get on board and be part of this, because it's a little bit like the sport of golf itself. The sport needs to get into and expose young people to the sport so that they get that in their blood and it becomes with them for life. Greenkeeping is no different, and it's a wonderful. Anyone who's listened to this segment of my podcast knows the career opportunities, the worldly opportunities that are available within this industry, where it can take you. And you did touch on other things outside just greenkeeping, and we know that greenkeeping isn't just golf. It's other sports turf services as well. It's cricket, it's football, like you talked about. It's rugby league. There's lawn tennis. There's bowls, of course. You know, and then you branch out into the other things. And you mentioned there architecture and so on. And there's also, I think, of irrigation. You think of agronomy. You think of science. There's so many other facets that you can break off into that, you know, really might just get your blood pumping when you learn about these things, or you get a start in something. And there's construction as well, and the machinery operations, and oh man, it just goes on. I mean, we could talk at length about it, and that's the wonderful opportunities for young people to get a start. And there's so much opportunity available. I know golf clubs and I know supers that I've spoken to, mate, like yourself, that are screaming out to get people to go to work there. It's insane at the moment. I don't know what it's like in Canberra, but I know here in Sydney, it's off its head.
Yeah, it's the same in Canberra. And I mean, you've only got to look on ASMA's website for the qualified greenkeeping positions that are just up on that alone. So it's a big problem in our trade, I believe, moving forward. As I said, places are going to look at, you know, you'll have a superintendent and just labourers.
No, mate, and we hope. I certainly hope it doesn't go that way. There's a lot of skills and a lot of knowledge to learn in this industry, and it can take you all over the world. It can take you in so many different facets, like I mentioned. But I really hope that what you're starting here and talking to the industry bodies about, matter and working with other supers, I really hope this starts to really move and infiltrate into those schools' careers programs, and we can showcase and show off. And Jesus, you know, doing this, I hope people listen to even some of these episodes with people like yourself to hear your backgrounds and even the path that you've taken to get to here. Because, you know, like yourself, you know, you travel around the country, you've been and experienced different things, and so many people have incredible stories of their careers. To see where they've gone. And I think it's fantastic. So, mate, well done to you. And you know, I think it's a wonderful thing, taking time out to help yourself and your club, but also the industry in a broader sense. I think it's fantastic.
Yeah, well, I think it's the more the trade itself that's what I'm doing it for, mate. And like even the schools have been so positive, and then, you know, obviously my background helps a little bit with kids that are a little bit you know, in year 10, 11, 12 that don't know what they're doing. And so I was at that point as well. So I can speak from experience. I didn't know what I was going to do with myself. And and again, it's not just males that we're concentrating on. Obviously, females can join, and I was quite surprised actually at the females that were quite interested in it as well, which is a positive as well, mate. Yeah.
Well, it is huge, and in this segment, it was only a few episodes ago now that I had a chat with Superintendent Sandy Links down there in Melbourne, the new Sandringham course with Jerry O'Callaghan. I mean, What a wonderful personality she was, and her story is incredible too. So, yes, females, it's open to anyone and everyone. We've got to get the people to look past the possibilities of stereotypes. Far from that these days, and I spoke to Jerry about that, and it's great that you mentioned that. So girls are open to this, females are open to this as well, and I think we need to make sure that everyone knows that it's open to all sorts of different people and all sorts of walks of life.
Yeah, 100%, man. And yeah, as we spoke about, like even the school's career advisor didn't understand what the trade could bring you and the avenues it could take you down, like we talked about. So it's been a bit of an eye-opener, actually, but hopefully we can all get on the front foot, get out to a few schools in our area, and it's only going to help us as a whole. So, again, I can't thank Mark Unwin enough for the time and effort he's put into it as well. He's obviously a very busy human being, and I can't thank him enough for showing the initiative and providing what he has for the PowerPoint alone. It's come up really good. So, as I said, if anyone's keen, I'm happy to send that PowerPoint on, and you can get around in your own area and speak to a few schools, and hopefully. So I'll just quickly get into it. So instead of like sending out one guy for work experience, we're talking about maybe a buddy program where kids now are a little bit hesitant going out on their own into the workforce. So maybe we're going to partner them up with them and a friend that are interested. That was one idea. And then, like you said, the completely different avenues. So I've spoken to our local sports turf association about it, and they're all happy to get on board. As you said, it might be a polo field, even if they're interested in horses or a racetrack. So we're trying to get kids that are interested in all avenues of sport to get them out, because, most kids play some sort of sport or watch sport on some sort of turf facility. So no, that's all covered in the PowerPoint, mate. And again, they've done a really good job of asthma on the PowerPoint presentation. That's for sure.
Fantastic stuff. Now, Simon, mate, that's wonderful work that you're talking about there with the ASTMA and getting kids into the industry. I want to move away a little bit now from that side of the greenkeeping, your career. We know that you're superintendent now at Gold Creek. You picked up that now. What sort of a crew do you have there? Have you got how many people? Just talking about labour, what's your crew size there? How many people does it take to look after Gold Creek?
So I've currently got 6, including myself, mate. As I said earlier, I have an assistant superintendent who's actually my brother.
Right, that's good.
I got him across. He's done his apprenticeship here and went straight into the assistant role, so sort of thrown in the deep end. Similar sort of scenario to myself, I guess. Then I've got 2 labourers and 2 apprentices just starting their 3rd year.
Okay, that's great. So that's good. And like every course, I'm sure you could do with more. How long have you been leading your team as superintendent?
So I've been super for 8 years now, mate. So it's flown by. But again, I think like back in the day, they sort of had 10 to 12 staff here at Gold Creek, and that would obviously be ideal. The property itself is quite a big property. It's probably around that 97, 98 hectares. So it is a big property. That's a big 18-hole golf course, mate. That's 6 people. Yeah, sure. Okay. Better you than me. Yeah. So we do have three practice holes on it as well that are now we did maintain it as the rest of the course, but now the owners are sort of weaned back on it, obviously due to budget. And I just keep 2 greens as a nursery, mate, and that's it.
That's hard, but that's huge. I'm just thinking about the size, 96. That's enormous for 18 holes.
It's a massive property. I mean, I guess it makes us at Gold Creek pretty unique. It is each hole is its own individual hole type of thing. There's not, it's not a course where you're running holes back and forth with it separated by just a tree line. So it's very unique, I guess, in that aspect where each hole is its own hole. So you don't see too many other holes. So I mean, I guess pros and cons, mate.
And with that, I take it. Let's start to talk. Okay, that's it. Let's talk a little bit about the golf course now. Let's give everyone, albeit on audio, let's give them a feel for what Gold Creek is. And I've done a little bit of my own research. It was built in the 90s. Bruce Devlin design. You talked about its routing and the way that the course is laid out. It's like a looped course with holes that sort of run around and form loops around. It's like an estate. Is that right?
I would say an estate. So when the course was actually built, there was nothing else around at the time when it was built. So now you get here and there's residents, obviously, that run along most holes. So
Okay.
But back in the day, nothing else is out this side of Canberra, and now obviously Canberra's booming, and yep, we have residents, which are an absolute pain, but
But
what we've
you
got to
would
deal with.
have, so like you said, the whole corridors, each hole is an individual hole. So when they laid the course out, they knew that it was going to be all houses around and residential around the property. So every hole, more or less, has both sides, I imagine, is what you're sort of saying. You got neighbours on both sides of a lot of holes, do you?
Not both sides. It's mainly the majority only on one side, mate. Like, as I said, there's not too many holes that run sort of up and back on each other. Our 10 and 18 sort of run side by side, and our 2nd and 8th hole run side by side, and that's virtually about it.
Yeah, right. So a lot of neighbours to deal with.
Yep.
There's a lot in that, I'm sure, mate. Bruce Devlin Design, we talked about. It's a large golf course. I want to know a little bit about your turf services. I want to talk to. Let's tell people what goes on there, what they're going to experience at Canberra. You touched on a bit of cooch, no doubt, before. So tell us what your services are made of: tees, fairways, greens, and surrounds.
Yep. So now, as I spoke about, in 2007, during the old drought period, the guys that were here at that time, line planted didn't actually line plant. It was seeded variety of cooch called Transcontinental. I'm not too sure who else in the whole country
unusual.
would have it. Yeah.
That is unusual. There you go.
Yeah, so it was a seeded variety, and I assume that was the best. I assume they'd done trial work at the time, etc. But that's what's in there now: Transcontinental cooch in our fairways. So the property was all originally ryegrass when it was built. So
wow.
So we still have tees that are ryegrass. I've actually re-leveled quite a few tees, and I've put Sonorani cooch down on them tees that I've done. So,
mate, best grass going around, in my opinion.
Yeah, again, Canberra's such a unique climate. Like, yeah, people don't sort of get it until they get here, you know. Like, I know Benny Grilovich come from where he come from when he was at Royal Canberra, and Jake Gibbs come from Sydney, and you don't quite understand it till you get here and experience. So you can snap your fingers and...
Before we talk about the rest of your services, let's jump into that little hole, because I know you're a cool climate. You're considered a cool climate region there at Canberra. You're halfway, what are you, 600 metres above sea level? I'm not sure how high you are,
but a little bit higher. Yeah.
There you go. And you're close to the Snowy Mountains, which is Australia's ski region. You're not too far away there, a couple of hours drive. You get really cold in winter. You get some serious frosts, probably some of the worst frosts I know of. And I was in a high climate. We're over 1,000 metres in the Blue Mountains, and we were cold. But you guys get cold because you're nearby to the Snowies. In relation to them is why you get that cold air mass. But conversely, because you're not so high, you get the heat in summer, which is this really strange, unique part of what makes Canberra what it is. So you'll get the 40s in summer, and you'll get the well and truly minuses down to snow in winter. So this is a real extreme zone that a lot of people don't really understand. That's a lot of headache from those extremes. So you can't really have one grass that's going to do a lot, even at transition level. It's going to be really hard work, isn't it?
Yeah, we're in a very unique spot here in Canberra, that's for sure. You know, we can get -8 quite easily during winter, and as you said, you get into the 40s in summer. So, and it can happen very quickly. Usually the frost period's usually standard Anzac Day sort of thing, but we've been quite lucky this season. We had a very light one on the old windscreen this morning, but it was a 0-1 degree morning this morning, so it's not far away.
April, you're already touching frosts.
Yeah, easily. I mean, last year we held the Australian Amateur Junior Championships here, so we're lucky enough to hold that, and that was in mid-April, I think, from memory, about the 13th of April it started, and I had 2 mornings in a row, the first 2 days that were -2, and yeah, you sort of going, what the hell do I do? But so yeah, it can happen quite early in April. We can get frost.
That's incredible, and that just really switches your cooch off pretty quickly, doesn't it?
100%, yeah. So from a turf management point, Canberra's, it's a very unique, tough battle, I can assure you.
So let's go back to your turf surfaces. We talked about the cooch, the Transcontinental that you've got. We've got ryegrass there on some of your tees you've been working on and leveling out. What do we got when we get to the putting surfaces and getting into those greens approaches?
So we're pretty unique in around our approaches and surrounds. Obviously, all the surrounds are still ryegrass, mate. Our greens were originally Pencross bent grass, and so when the guys seeded the fairways, we've still probably got about a 50, 60 metre buffer of where they, whether it be budget restrictions that they had at the time, but that's what we still have now, sort of 50, 60 metre front approach of still ryegrass. So we still have quite a bit of ryegrass out front of our green complexes, yeah.
So does that mean as a player, someone who's experiencing the course maybe for the first time, for example, if you come down to play in summer, mate, I haven't had the luxury of playing Gold Creek, so I'm sort of guessing my way through here, and you'll explain it. Does that mean that the Cooch in summertime we're going to have, reasonably sort of firmish fairways, but as we get to the greens, being cool season grass on your approaches to the surrounds and then into the greens at bent, ryegrass surrounds, bent grass greens, you're going to be watering them through that heat period. In summer, we get softer surrounds and greens a little bit because you're trying to manage those high summer temperatures sometimes.
Yeah, 100%. And I mean, again, we're 30 years old going on now, so I don't have the luxury of back-to-back heads on green complexes either. So a lot of our surrounds are very mounded surrounds around our green complexes. So again, they chew up a lot of our time with hand watering, etc. Because obviously we don't want to overwater green complexes. So it is a tricky one for me at this complex, but it is what it is, and you just got to manage as best we can, mate, here. So again, we've probably got 2 heads of irrigation out front of greens on them rye complexes, and yeah, they do cop a bit of a flogging as Canberra soils are uniquely heavy clay profiles, and yeah, it's the same here at Gold Creek. It's very clay-based soil.
There's a lot. All that keeps ringing in the back of my head is 6 staff. 6 staff. I don't know how you're managing down there. You guys are absolutely working your backsides off, no doubt. There's a lot of work going on just with these grass types on top of the size of your golf course. I can't get my head around it, mate.
This season's been pretty good, mate, with the wet weather, so this one hasn't been too bad.
Well, it's funny. I suppose I digress a little bit. I only for a short period in my time as a greenkeeper had a really wet couple of years. But for most of my greenkeeping life, it was drought. And I didn't realize that until I stepped away from greenkeeping, that I didn't get to manage much golf course maintenance time during good times. Like you get those couple of years that are perfect. They might be a little bit too wet. Nearly my whole career was dry, and it's really weird when I think back. All I think about is how to deal with in stressful hot times. But every now and then you'll get a good couple of years stretch where it can help you. Like you said, this year's been wet for so many, and I think for the central west of you guys, it's probably above average. But it's made life a lot easier, hasn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, that's where in my 8 years here, I've gone through both already. Like we've had our heavy drought, and now we've gone through a bit of a wet couple of years. So I've had it all in a few years actually. So it's been challenging.
You take the good ones when you can get them. I know that's 100%. The one thing I do know.
100%.
Mate, tell us a bit about the golf course, because this is what I love hearing from superintendents. You know the course so intimately. You're there at sunrise. Sometimes you're there at sunset as well, working throughout the daylight periods. You know this place backwards, probably better than your own house. What's a unique sort of characteristic of the site, and what's one of your favourite parts on the golf course? Tell us a little bit about
that. I think a couple of spots for me is on our 11th hole. Once you get up, you get up a bit of a hill off the tee. It's a bit of a blind tee shot when you get up on the rise on the fairway, and it'll sort of dip down towards the green there. But on top of the hill, you got a good view of Telstra Tower and Black Mountain. So that's quite a nice point on the golf course. And then our 17th hole, again, similar sort of a setup. You got a bit of a blind tee shot up the hill, and once you get on the top of the hill, it sort of looks back over our 10th and 18 hole. So it's quite a unique look there. As I spoke about earlier, I think the unique thing about Gold Creek, it is such a big venue, and it is such a wide open golf course. So it's not tree line where you're looking for balls and struggling with your golf game as well, I guess. So I mean, flip the coin, and for us, mowing is a bit of a nightmare. But that's what I've got to do to manage the place. But I think that's our biggest selling point here at Gold Creek. It is such a big, wide open golf course where guys can sort of get out and have a lash and not worry about such a tree line tight golf course, mate.
I'm growing more disappointed that I haven't been there, mate. You're talking it up. I'm really disappointed I haven't been there. Look, because it's the northwestern side, and we've just recorded a podcast with Harley Cruz, who's looking at doing some planning with your bunkers and the like in the future for the golf club, the golf course. And we were talking about you're at the northwestern suburbs of Canberra, just sort of out in the suburb regions, away from the city centre. Are you exposed to westerly winds and the like as well? I don't know what that area is like.
Yeah, because again we're so open, so we do get a little bit of wind through here, but nothing too silly, mate. That's for sure. We're pretty lucky in that aspect. It'll usually get up in the afternoon more than anything, so we're pretty lucky. And then again, as you're speaking about Harley, it's quite an exciting venue that we've got with Harley again through Dennis, where Harley designed. Dennis's new 15th hole down there at Catalina is how I got to come with the relationship with Harley, and luckily our owners sort of got on board with him as well. And our bunkers are obviously 30 years old now at Gold Creek, and over the next few years, obviously we've put that plan in place now to fix them up and get some drainage in them. And we're still going through the design process now and trying to find a company. Hopefully we've found one now that we're talking to that we can get the ball rolling, mate, and kick a few off this year, hopefully.
Wow, that'll be great if you can get that going. Certainly, I imagine in the quieter time coming into winter would be the guess, I assume.
Yeah, that's the plan moving forward, mate. Yeah, because obviously our guys can help out with labour, which then obviously helps with costs involved as well. But so yeah, they'll be that's going to be such a big plus for us because we can have sort of 10, 15 million where I've got one or two guys on a bunker pump for a whole day. So that's going to help us out a lot in the coming years. Again, it's not a cheap exercise to get done, but I want to get it done properly and foolproof, obviously for the longevity of the club and for obviously the next guy that takes over from me. Not that I'm going to go anywhere, but obviously I want a foolproof plan. Obviously moving forward, mate, I don't want to do a Band-Aid job, I guess.
No, and you talk. There's a couple of things there that I want to dive into a little bit, and that's you mentioned before the heavy soils of Canberra. So if a bunker's been contaminated or it's not draining or it's old, it's not working anymore, you're going to have some real problems. Add to that what you just said, and people might not have noticed, but you did mention just then you might have one or two guys pumping out bunkers, right? Now, let's quantify that for anyone listening that's not worked on a golf course. You got 6 blokes. If you have one or two guys, that's 1/3 of your workforce. Draining bunkers. You've got nearly 100 hectares of land to try and look after. And if it's full of water, the rest of it's growing. I'm just wigging out, mate. Honestly, I like I said before, my brain is struggling to compute just how much work you have for that many guys. So this is what I want to try and educate people as well by doing these conversations and giving people insight is just what's involved with some of these work things when they raise their heads. And so to proof your bunkers, to sort of basically drain proof them so that they're built properly and you've got them then in the ground for the future, for the next whatever years that will last for, is going to be a massive help at the back end of maintaining a golf course. So for you guys to be moving down this path, for your owners to realize that, pardon me, they need to invest in this, that's a big step, a big commitment, but certainly going to really put them in an incredible position moving forward, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. And the owners have been really great, mate. They obviously know that's a big downfall of the place now. Again, it's 30 years old, and as you said, the expectation of golfers, and they don't understand the work or processes that go involved in it. The old stereotype, everyone thinks their course should be Augusta with a budget of nothing. So it's how I can project the old bunkers because they're a lot. Every club's the same. So much time and labour goes into bunker. With the end of the day, is a hazard. So I can't wait to get involved. And Harley's got such a great eye for detail. Like he come here and straight away, he pointed out a lot of things, and it's going to be an exciting time for the club. And hopefully we can get the ball rolling on that one for sure.
Certainly, for the club, for you and your team as well. It's going to be exciting to be part of it. I think it's all fantastic. Mate, I'm going to ask a cheeky question. I don't know if you can answer it or not, but will what Harley's looking at in terms of the bunkers, is there more? And my cheeky question is there more things that might be looked at on the golf course, or is it confined to bunkers itself?
Well, I've got him here for bunkers, and then obviously, as my job, like we spoke about earlier, you want to keep improving the facility. So, of course, I'm going to sit down with Harley and keep going over ideas for a 5-year, 10-year, 15-year plan moving forward, mate. Ideally, as I said, it's the complex was originally a whole ryegrass facility. So, when the guys seeded the Transcontinental, that's sort of a very rectangularly block sort of runway type of way that they've seeded it. So I've still got rye roughs, and in our hot summers, obviously that becomes clumpy and it's a big downfall sort of the place. So ideally moving forward, one of the plans that me and Harley have already talked about, if we can get that cooch an extra sort of 20 metres wider than the fairways and have that cooch a few step cuts in our rough, and the quality of the turf then off the fairways so much better again. So obviously then you got to look at irrigation, and there's so many steps in that plan, but that's obviously my job to implement and hopefully keep improving Gold Creek, mate.
Mate, that's very exciting on many things there. I don't think you've written yourself out of work yet, mate. I think you've got plenty coming. So
unfortunately, though, I don't pay them bills.
No, that's very true.
Got to get the ticket approval from the owners, and away we go.
That's very true, mate. I am a little curious, and I don't know if you know enough about it. Maybe this is another question that I don't know if you can answer properly or not. Was Gold Creek always a private-owned golf club or golf course, golf facility, or was it a different type of version? Has it always been this way?
Originally, mate, the government built and owned the place, and then I believe our now owners bought it off the government, mate. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Wow, that's an interesting scenario. There you go. That's different too. There's a lot of things that are different in Canberra. I say that with tongue in cheek. Canberra's a great golf destination. It always has been, and you guys are one part of that. And you talked about, some of your improvements. I think hopefully, this has given people much more of an insight into what Gold Creek is. Is it somewhere that we can just, ring and book? Is it fully public access? Is that how it works?
Yeah, mate. Yep, 100%. So, and I mean, again, the other luxury that we have that makes it a little bit unique, I guess, is when the course was built, we're fully concrete car paths around the whole facility. So we do have that additional aspect, especially in our winter months. If we do have a wet winter, we can have carts in access for obviously people of all ages, and if you have a medical condition, you can still jump in the cart. And get around the golf course, no drama at all, which obviously helps out as well.
It does, all abilities and all groups, and that's a positive for a lot of social groups and visitors sometimes as well. It's a big golf course. I don't know if it's a par whatever. Maybe you can tell me if it's a par something, but okay, so it's a long track as well. It's a big golf course. There's a lot of interest, mate. I want to come and see Gold Creek next time I'm down in Canberra. I'll certainly be doing that. It sounds like a really interesting and enjoyable golf course. Something that's got a lot for everyone and a lot for the visitors as well. Are you a busy golf course? Has COVID made you busier?
COVID's definitely made us a lot busier, mate. Now membership's obviously gone up. I think most clubs have been in that same boat. COVID's been probably one of the better things to happen to golf, I guess. Out of a pandemic, golf's definitely benefit from it, I think, and I think most clubs would agree, mate. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. It's I do like to ask. I don't like to assume on some things, but I figured that was probably the case, mate. And we talked about some of those things. Have you got a short-term plan of works that are doing? The bunkers are obviously part of that. Is there anything else that you might be trying to improve over the winter months?
Yeah, again, keep re-leveling tees, mate. Obviously, the old par 3 tees, copper flogging here. And the worst part about Gold Creek, actually, a lot of our par 3 tees are probably our smaller tee complexes, so we can make them a little bit bigger and flatten them out. That'll be on the agenda for winter as well. And again, obviously, hopefully we can get these bunkers kicked off. But again, to get them done properly and drainage, and because they're 30 years old, they've got nothing in them. So it is not a cheap complex. Material costs aren't going down, that's for sure. So
no they're not.
We can get them started this probably around August, September, if we can get the go ahead. So.
Oh, mate, fingers crossed. And one thing that I did realise that we jumped across when we were talking about the golf course and your services. We didn't quite get to the greens. What are your greens made of?
So originally Pencross, mate. Yeah.
Oh, Pencross. Okay. Yep, you did mention that. Sorry.
Yep.
So Pencross greens, and that's a bent grass variety. And do you find that holds up okay? In summertime down there, from time you can manage it all right. I know it's a tough gig in the 40 degrees.
Yeah, no, it's fine, mate. Obviously, we've got power in now as well, so it's not 100% bent grass, that's for sure. But I think, as many other superintendents would say, as long as you can control the old seeded in the power, it's a fine. The surface is fine in my eyes, and the bore rolls, fine as long as you control that seeded. I think it's not a drama. The biggest problem, as I said to you, mate, not having back-to-back heads on green complexes here is a big issue for me, and a lot of hand waterings sort of done to keep the greens not getting overwatered, and which is a bit of a time waster, but it is what it is, and you got to deal with it.
Part of the challenge, mate, that you've no doubt got the plans for in your head to try and improve over time, and that's infrastructure. And like you said, all these bits and pieces, you talk to the owners of the club, and you find the right path forward for you guys together, and get the best results out of it, mate. Look, Simon, it has been an absolute pleasure and a great insight having you on the Golf and Greenkeeper podcast and Keeper of the Greens, the first one for this new revamped version of Keeper of the Greens, mate. I appreciate your time, and I hope that's been a great insight to everyone listening about your career, what greenkeeping can do and where it can take you in life, but also, country boy, your story, where you've come from, and getting into Canberra and to managing Gold Creek, having been there now for 8 or so years, like you mentioned, and leading a wonderful team at a great facility. So, mate, congratulations on everything that you're doing and everything you're doing outside that golf course as well, in promoting greenkeeping as a career path for young people there in Canberra. I think that's a great thing that you're doing, and hopefully it'll raise awareness for a lot of young people and give them an opportunity in greenkeeping. I think you've done so well. And look, I think it's a great selling point for Gold Creek. I want to get down there and visit. I hope there's plenty of other people that put Gold Creek on their list when they get into the A.C.T. into Canberra for a golf trip as well. So, mate, thank you very much for being on the podcast. It's been wonderful having you on. Appreciate your time.
No, thanks again for having me on, mate. It's a pleasure. And again, kudos to you for doing what you're doing, mate, and trying to spread the word and getting everyone sort of intertwined in our industry. I think it's a bit of a downfall in our industry where it's a bit cliquey and everyone sort of only deals with who they know. And again, with me, I think, that's where I've come across my benefit from footy background. And I think the more we all interact with each other and get involved with each other in field days, seminar days, the better off we are going to be as a whole. So thank you for doing what you're doing as well, mate. Appreciate it.
No, mate, thank you very much. I appreciate those kind words. And like I said, it's all about just getting people excited about what's happening, giving them some wonderful insight into the golf courses and the people behind them, and putting a name and a face to a golf club as well that gets their experience, what they're going to experience out there when they play golf. So, Simon, thank you once again, mate. It's been a pleasure, and I look forward to catching up with you soon.
Thanks very much, mate.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. What a sensational interview that was with Superintendent Simon Snedden from Gold Creek, I'll get it right, Country Club, down there in the nation's capital, Canberra, in the A.C.T. Fantastic conversation, and what a guy Simon is. I just think about the work that he's doing with the Australian Sports Turf Managers Association, working with the CEO of the association, and trying to work out the best way of opening up the eyes of young people in Australia, certainly in Canberra for where Simon is, but young people in Australia in schools to get them to see just what greenkeeping is as a career, as a trade to begin your working life in, and what the benefits are long term, what the opportunities are, what it opens up. I mean, that's great work by Simon, and I congratulate him on that, and also the ASTMA and anyone else that's helping Simon out there and with that pursuit of trying to open up the greenkeeping industry into the eyes of young people in Australia. I think it's fantastic. We all know, we talk within ourselves in the industry, how difficult labour is and how difficult it is to try and get to get staff on board, to train people up. It's a massive opportunity at the moment for people to get involved. You don't need to be young people either. It can be older people, mature age, but I just love the fact that Simon is working on the grassroots level in young people and trying to get them a start and open their eyes up to the opportunities of it. I think it's fantastic. And also, how bloody good does Gold Creek sound? Like I said, I'm disappointed I haven't played it myself. I'm really looking forward to the day when I get the chance to travel back down to Canberra. I did mention how good a spot is for golf to travel to as a golf destination. And Gold Creek, if after listening to that you don't want to go and play Gold Creek, well, I think you might have something wrong with you in terms of wanting to go out there and enjoy golf courses, because it sounds like a fascinating place. And do what I've done. Do a bit of online research. Google some of the Gold Creek stuff. Get to their website and have a look at their socials as well. And you're going to see some magnificent images coming out there at Gold Creek and the work that Simon and his very small team on a very large golf course are doing, if I'm honest, just quietly. So, look, I really appreciate Simon's time to have a chat with me. I hope you guys out there enjoyed it. Please like, share, subscribe. And what a way to kick off the brand new version of Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens. It's been fantastic. I've really enjoyed it, guys. I hope you have too. Like, share, subscribe. Please leave me a comment. And if you would, I'd really appreciate a review, an updated review from those of you out there who have listened and enjoyed it, to help us share the podcast around. Oh, yeah. And I want to know, and don't be scared, I want to know what you thought of Steve's Super 7, the new questions, a slightly altered version, the new questions that are there. I want you to be able to compare it to different people that I interview as well. But I also want you to think about those things when you're out there playing golf or working, whatever you're doing. I want you to think about those questions and see what your answers might have been as well. So compare the people that I interview with what you think just the same. It's just a little bit interesting, and that's the idea behind it. Now, as a bit of a footnote for our new partners, Colin Campbell Chemicals, make sure you get out and check out their website at campbellchemicals.com.au. And also, for anyone interested, Nadeem from Colin Campbell Chemicals actually does have a podcast out there, and one that he invited me on not so long ago. I think I was episode number 38. It's called Behind the Turf. Now, it's a bit more targeted to greenkeepers and anyone interested in the details and the science and the agronomy behind turf. It's very technical as well, so if that interests you, if you're outside the greenkeeping world, it's really an interesting insight. And if you want to know a little bit more about my story as well, we had a great interview. I love having a chat to Nadeem. I love having a chat to anyone, as you can probably tell. It was great being invited by Nadeem onto his podcast, Behind the Turf, and I really urge you to go out there and check that out. It's a really interesting one, and any of you guys out there in the trade, guys and girls in the trade, you will no doubt enjoy that one too, and get a bit of information out there. It's a great one for the industry and to update your knowledge as well. Good insight and information. Thank you again for taking the time out for, I'm going to say it again, Colin Campbell Chemicals, Keeper of the Greens. You hit them clean and we'll keep them green.